Hello everyone and welcome to this video where I'm going to make my Minisub, the Cont III, work with a internal powered generator or a generator that does not need to be attached to the atmosphere. Now, I do recommend you take a look at my other video where I actually ran the test on how to get this system working. And now with that knowledge, we can actually enter the workshop here or workbench and try to do it. So what I know from when I did this sub, and it's been a while back now, is in here is where my engine is. So we can just remove that hatch cover right now. Now the engine, it seems, gets its juice or air from these ports and the exhaust as well. So you could see down here, now we do have the old style filter, so I'm going to remove that. What was supposed to go through here, air only. So anyways, we don't need that anymore. We could put just a gas valve and that'll work the exact same way, but still we're gonna have to add some parts in here, and this one for sure is our exhaust, as you can see here. And did I put a catalytic converter? No, I did not. So let's go ahead and put a catalytic converter. No need to not have one right now. We have the space and exhaust out. So that is the current, call it, system that requires the submarine to actually be outside of the water. The water line has to be here, and this part has to be accessible to get, obviously, the exhaust out and air in. But now with our new knowledge, and I'm just going to go ahead and import this from my other video, so you could see on top of our catalytic converter, we now have a pump to pump out the air that's been collected, or the exhaust that's been collected in here, and a way to release this and actually have the generator work while we're on the surface. So this can be done in a few ways. I'm trying to minimize the impact on the exterior of the sub. I am aware that there is some impact. Of course, we have these tanks. They're not very pretty, but it is what it is. So we can work with what we have kind of exposed to us. So first thing I want to do is, outside of my catalytic converter, I got to put a pump and I got to put a gas tank system. So this can possibly just work lifted up like that and running like that. So this would be the first, call it, step of what I'm trying to accomplish inside that little area that we have. And then this will also have to go up to the top and be attached to the surface through a vent. So again, yet another piece of the puzzle, and it's kind of getting a little clunky and cumbersome, but we're going to see how to best optimize it. So pretty much right now we get something that looks kind of like this, with these ones and these ones having to be actually exposed to the atmosphere. Now we do have some space in here, but not very much. And I'm gonna see if this system can be attached somewhere here. And you can see we could also delete those, but pretty much all of this is unnecessary for us. So this is directly out of the catalytic converter. And then this sort of funny three-pronged trident looking thing can be placed in here like that. Now this may require rejigging of the actual, well, for sure of the exterior of the submarine, but I may be able to attach these things in a bit better way, especially a way that will kind of make, well, first of all, of course, this can be attached directly to this pipe, but what I'm saying is on the top now, we'd still have to kind of cause a little bit of a bump out, not the end of the world, but something that, So instead of just pasting the thing in, I actually prefer to create a system specific for what I intend to use it. So in this case, I will actually place my own tank there, and that will fit. Now this pump system pretty much has to be that way, and this system with the valve, I keep it in mind, if you're gonna run it, you don't, like underwater, you don't have to step outside. If you plan on running it while on the actual surface, then you can go and turn this valve. So we can actually place a valve like that on the top of this submarine, so that's not a big deal. The pump itself, honestly, can fit quite perfectly where the previous vent was, and even use that old vent, just like that. So that actually works perfectly with this situation, and this of course will be replaced by this type of vent, or the one that we had there. The tank is great there, so then the only other part of this puzzle remains the other part of the system, so I have to change this pipe around, and we'll put one that has a T-piece corner, and then of course it has to go up to the top here and allow us to actually flip the valve, so it'll have to come out like this, and then it'll have to have the actual valve piece and that port. So there's no way of avoiding this. I mean, you could put this in a different spot, but just because of my current setup, like, this is all the chamber, the airlock. So there's, without having this thing kind of come into here and have this valve, it'll just most likely have to be on the top. So yes, you have to get out of the sub and turn this valve in order to release the air into the atmosphere, or the exhaust into the atmosphere. But that now concludes this system in its entirety, and now we have to worry about the storage of the air that goes into the engine. If we take a look at the system that I used, I actually had a variable valve that went right into the air manifold, so we can go and attach this directly to there. Now we did have the filter, which makes sense to have, of course, but we probably don't need it here. We really need it just to prevent water from entering our system. So that doesn't have to be down there, so we can actually delete it. And this comes right out of the air manifold. So this is where I can put this thing. Now I have to clear up some space, of course. And of course it doesn't fit right away, but eventually it will. Okay, so now we have our pipe, and then this thing will face like this. So this is the fluid coming in, and that's the only direction it's ever going to be entering. It'll be going into our engine, so that's fine. That's a good location for it. Now I do have to see if I want to rotate it around. I mean, when you're working in a small space like this, there's always criteria you have to be aware of, so I suggest maximizing all available space. Anyways, we have that. That's the first part. And out of that first part now come 3 things, or actually, as I mentioned in the other video, 4 things. It would be also wise to put a actual hose pipe or hose node, just like that. So this is the thing we have to shove into here. I'm actually going to place the air tank facing up here, and that'll allow me to open up this with a pipe angle like that. So that gives us now some access, and in theory this would now connect directly to this, but we also have some other things we have to add. Just to keep some of the symmetry of the system, I actually kind of want to try to continue what we have now. One thing to note is we actually have 2 ports. This one here is a fluid in, so we have to be careful when we're sucking fluid in that that's not giving us any air in our system, obviously. So that's number 1. And then of course this one as well, that if we want to open it up, this also has to have a filter. Yes, we can also make this share a single point if we put a directional piece. So what I'm talking about is if we have a valve that is a directional flow valve, and we actually attach it like this, so it only allows air to come in, then we can actually share the 2 systems with the one single point. So for example, this air comes in here and out there, this air goes in here, out there. So now in theory, you'd only need the 1 port, and no matter what you do, you're always going to end up going through there. So as long as this matches this, so out there has to match out on this thing, and then you wouldn't need this. This in fact could be just attached to something like this and to that. So then it kind of goes in 2 parallel streams. You either have the pump or you either have that, and it's using 1 vent port. The only problem now is that looks fairly large to try to put in here, but let's see what I can do. There's always other design constraints that you have to be aware of. So in this case, these points here, these electrical connectors, act as the highest point so we can stack other containers on top. The previous location here actually exceeded the height for that, so I do have to move these kind of at a downward angle like that. Anyways, that does clear space up a little bit, and this system now does or should work, but it's still allowing water in, so there has to be some other filters and things added here. Now I've ditched having one port. I'm gonna have to settle for two, and not only that, I'm gonna have to settle for something that may work with great difficulty. As you can see here, we don't have a lot of space, and if I put a pump here, it's actually going to allow water to be pumped in. So not only that, I have to put it one bit lower than that, so I'd put it there. So this is in. Now if I take that gas filter, put it here, then I could actually do that. The problem is, what is the bottom of the pump touching? Well, it's touching the RPS, which could possibly work if it's only RPS that's going through these pipes. Then if I do integrate my new fluid, the gas or air, with this, that still should work, especially if I pump it out right away here. So this is another video I talk about, but pretty much you can mix these pipes with like RPS and air, as long as it's not going through clutches and stuff. So this hopefully right now should work, and then we could just attach it right here. This might work actually quite nicely. Okay, this one obviously has to be a T-piece that is now feeding between these ones here. This has to be a corner piece, and this just goes to there. So now when we pump something in, it goes through there, and back up into the tank. The last one is an actual hose port, which I guess we may as well add now, because right now we're just using this corner. So if we go ahead and change it to a T-piece corner, we could just go up here with another pipe and a hose for yet another air location. Well, that was a bit interesting. I can take this old cap, have to delete these though, and bring this whole thing back over top of the location, just like that. And that works. We're of course going to color it. I think if I do some touch-ups here, that'll also kind of look nice. Like that, at least for the visual sake. And then everything just gets colored yellow, with the exception of the pipes. I'm going to leave those black so they kind of match. Oh, this is also some kind of problem I've just seen. What is this? Oh, well, this is open. So this has to be an enclosed pipe. And then this can just be a wedge, just to keep this space closed. Okay, that should now seal it off and allow us to run the generator underwater. What I am going to do is make sure these are labeled. So air and exhaust. And this is also air. Everything now has been labeled, so we have this labeled exhaust valve, open run generator on surface, air valve, open run generator on surface. This is the generator air external refill. And then of course our pumps are located in here, so everything has to get plugged in to the electricity. I'm going to go off the main power B and make sure everything, including my pumps and my variable valve, is all plugged in. Then, as I did before, I would have to set my air intake manifold, that's right here, to also apply to the variable valve. That's easy. And then the fluid pumps, meaning to remove the exhaust and pump in new air, which also you have to run on the surface. I'm going to attach that to a button, but first I have to find the generator button in here. The old button's here, but it's full. So I'm going to remove the generator from this whole thing entirely, and we'll place it somewhere else. I placed a new instrument panel here for the generator, so now we can actually run the sealed generator. This is the generator air in, exhaust out, must be surfaced. Now this can be valves, valves to run surfaced, located next to airlock. So that would hopefully give instructions, And then we have the generator fuel and generator air intake for when it's sealed. So those are going to give you parameters for running that generator. And I did place a microcontroller down here that now has to be plugged in everything. So of course, if we remember, channel 1 is to start the thing, channel 2 is to pump in and out, and then channel 3 and 4 are not going to be composite read, but rather we're going to use the other one, which is going to be a number input to feed us with information. So number input, and then these number inputs are going to go through the composite into the writes. So just like this. So channel count 2. And we're going to start it off on channel 3, so channel 3 and channel 4. That attaches to this, and we go back here. So now what we know is channel 4 is going to be our fuel, channel 3 is our air, channel 2 is to start the gen, and channel 2 is going to be to open the pumps. So that should hopefully give us a little bit of a clear labeling design. And now all the way from here to there, from here to there, and then back to this thing. So channel 1 is the generator start. I just have to find my generator microcontroller. There it is, generator start. Okay, then if we go to the second one, pumps, so the pump in and pump out function, here's one pump, here's the other pump. And then we have the fuel and the air. So air, we're going to plug in to the air tank that's feeding our generator, so tank content. And then we're going to also go to fuel and place that inside this space. I believe it's kind of an enclosed space. So this should be the liquid meter that feeds this, if I'm mistaken. Nope, that's right. This one here is diesel, and that's where this little compartment is. So it's not a huge tank, but it does actually kind of sit with the rest of these batteries. So regardless, now that should be it. So again, air is 3 and gas is 4. Inside the Minisub, we can see we have air in the system. Now it's dropping, it's probably going through the pipes. We have fuel, it's kind of equalizing itself, and we should be able to run it. And you can see it's charging up the battery. And if we make our way down here and out, now it seems to be running pretty high on the RPMs, so I will maybe adjust it. And that, folks, is why testing is key. So first things first, I couldn't even get out of my hatch. So to facilitate this, I've actually added these seats. So say you want to get out, you can't jump out. You just kind of glitch to the seat here and glitch to the seat there, and now you're out. So that was one of the things. Then I turned the RPS down on the engine. We do have these air valve systems, which are good, and we can make our way into the cabin now and close the door. Let's run the air systems. That's one of the other things. And then let's run the regular systems. And once we get submerged, I am gonna run the batteries, but let's first also fill the ballast. That will also help things a little. Now these big propellers obviously will waste a good amount of electricity. So let's see if we can run our sealed generator now. And granted, even 50% throttle, the thing's moving very fast. So the generator in its current form cannot keep up with this, but if we turn off the roof propellers and just kind of run off the little rear propeller that we have, you should be able to actually charge up your system. So it gives you a flexibility. You can use it kind of in various ways. You could use it in a manner if you're trying to stop and charge up your systems, you could do that. And otherwise, if you want to have a system where it's just kind of running, you could kind of run it like that. It'll facilitate, it'll keep your batteries charged a bit longer. If we do stop, as you can see now, then it should, as long as the propellers aren't spinning too fast, it should keep the thing kind of charged up at least a little bit. See, you can see it's going up a bit. I may turn the RPS a bit up, but regardless, you could see we got fuel, we got the sealed generator air, and we're running the generator underwater. If you do want to use it on the surface, you do have to change these valves right here that you see here. This valve and this valve have to be opened, and then you could run it on the surface. I just recommend filling it up with air before you go back down, because once you open these valves, your tanks are going to be equalized with the atmosphere and you won't have any compressed air. So you want to close them and then run the generator in order for you to recover that sealed intake air. Anyways, really cool system. Hope you guys enjoy the submarine. I'm going to release it quite soon here with these fixes and changes that I've made. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned for more videos, more creations, more kind of fun stuff. And until next time, happy Stormworksing, everyone. Now, for those of you that made it this far, I do have one other announcement, one kind of secret. Well, I'm going to be making a medium-sized submarine. It's been requested time and time again. This right now is my largest submarine, and I'm going to be using Lord Bison's massive submarine to make an Alta oil drill submarine, but I am going to make a medium-sized OMA sub at some point. I wanted to perfect my systems and kind of have a nice working air system. I wanted to have the generator system figured out, and of course the displays and all that I can do later, and have a nice mini sub that's probably 4 times the size of this and has living quarters and some other stuff that kind of allows you to go underwater for larger periods of time. So thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for that.